Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Golf Adjacent with Canon Claycomb. I'm Christian Sykes, I guess you call me the owner, the producer, um, the person that's behind the scenes running all of the Crimson Crossover Podcast Network podcasts. Within that, we have the Weekly Joe's Baseball, Tide Machine, which is a Tide football history podcast, the M3 Show with Matt Hereford, Josh McMillan, that's our football podcast, and then the Crimson Crossover podcast, which is our basketball podcast. And we're excited to have Canon jump on here and do Golf Adjacent, which is re-bringing golf back to the Crimson Crossover Podcast Network. Canon, you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so obviously Canon Claycomb here. Excited to be on Golf Adjacent. Thankful for Christian and all of his friends over at all of their other podcasts for helping me out. I played golf at Alabama. I'm from Bowling Green, Kentucky, living in Orlando, Florida now. Was lucky enough, like I said, to play golf at Alabama. Met a lot of awesome people at Alabama. Was friends with a lot of guys that have gone on to have some great success, and I'm currently trying to create my own success. And while I was at Alabama, I studied sports media in school, and then I did a couple of podcasts with you guys just for fun, and this opportunity kind of fell into my lap. So I'm really excited to do a podcast and do a podcast with you and call it Golf Adjacent and get to learn all of the tools and trades of the podcast business while we also get to talk about my favorite thing, which is golf.
So, for everyone listening, this is the first episode, obviously. Canon, do you want to give an idea of kind of what your goal is or what you want to kind of talk about within this podcast as we, proceed forward?
Yeah, so I think, if anybody follows me on socials, Twitter, Instagram, I'm usually very outspoken and I want this podcast to be the same way. So I really want it to be like an outreach program almost for golf fans where they can have direct access to me, and you, and if they have questions they pose it and we talk about it on the podcast, because I think a lot of the times in golf, especially like when you're new to it, you don't know which questions to ask and you might just be a little scared or nervous to ask the question. And I want this podcast to kind of be like there are no rules in a way about golf. So like I have a lot of advice, I have a lot of life experiences, and I haven't written a book, so this is my book, and it's an open book. And anybody that wants to, have their own chapter in the book, I welcome them with open arms. And that's kind of my vision. We're going to talk, all things between America's Tour, which is, the Canadian and Latin tour below Corn Ferry. We're going to talk about Corn Ferry Tour sometimes. We're going to talk about PGA Tour sometimes. And then we're just going to talk about whatever else we want to talk about. And that's kind of the goal. That's the vision. And yeah, like I said, no rules attached.
So for you, we're gonna start with you because I think when people are listening to this, they're tuning in because they want to hear what you're going through, what you've been through, and kind of maybe your swing stuff or your training, different things like that. So before we get into what's coming up on your schedule, let's go back a little bit. You
Mhm.
graduated Alabama a year and a half ago. What what have you done since you left Alabama?
Yeah, so I graduated Alabama a year and a half ago. I earned status through PGA Tour University, which was a program set up by the PGA Tour that took the 20, I think it was 20 when I was in school. So the 20 best seniors from college golf and gave them status on a tour. I think they might have expanded it to 25 now, and it honestly it might have been 25 when I was in school as well. But basically, one gets a PGA Tour card, 2 through 10 get Corn Ferry cards, and then 11 through 25 got PGA Tour Americas, which was, like I said earlier, in Canada and Latin America. I finished like 18th or 19th on that list my senior year. So I got PGA Tour America status. That was in Canada. Played up there for, the summer. I think it was 14 events. Didn't play great. I think I only made like 4 or 5 cuts. No like top tens, no wins. So that was, disappointing. And then I got status in Latin America through Canadian Tour, and went down and did like Lima, Peru, Mexico City, Argentina, Rio, Brazil, and a few more places down in South America as well. Played a little bit better down there, made like 2 or 3 of the 6 cuts. But again, just didn't have that big tournament where you finish second or third or a win. So I ended up losing my status. I had technically conditional status on Canada this year, but I opted not to go up there and try and get into any of the events. I instead stayed here and played some Monday qualifiers for PGA Tour events, and honestly saved a little bit of money by traveling in America instead of flying around Canada. Canada is a huge country, by the way, for anybody that hasn't been there. It is massive and hard to get around. A lot of wilderness, but it was beautiful, and I enjoyed my time in both Canada and Latin America. And I'm currently, sitting here with still conditional status on Americas, but that's going to run out soon. And we're now just kind of looking into Q school season.
Yeah, and I think for everyone listening, as far as maybe future episodes, I think we're gonna tackle some of the like college golf, what your college career looked like. And I think even like this past summer, whenever we get a chance, I think being able to record what your experiences with that, maybe some interviews with some people that you met throughout that time would be pretty interesting. But as far as keeping this one kind of concise, I think the next thing would be what's next? Like what you got going on? What's your schedule look like? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm starting next week. I'm going to Sweden for DP World Tour Q School. That's first stage. So each qualifying stage between DP and Corn Ferry, they both have 3 stages. DP World Tour is like it'll be like 70 to 100 guys at each stage. So first stage, 70 to 100 guys, 18% of the field and ties advance. So if it's 100, it'll be 18 people in ties. That obviously fluctuates with the field size. So if I make it through the first stage in Corn Ferry in Sweden, I'll come back here to America for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'll fly to Spain, do the same thing over, like 70 to 100 guys, 18% at second stage. If you make it through second stage, you stay over in Spain for the following week is final stage. If you make the cut at final stage, which I think is like 190 guys, so it's a really big field. If you make the cut, which is like I think top 90 in ties, you automatically get Challenge Tour status, which is the DP World Tour's Corn Ferry Tour. Um, I have some buddies that are doing that right now. They love it. They got to play in, Asia, South Africa, all of Europe. Crazy travel. It looks awesome. So that's the first thing that I have on the list. The second is Corn Ferry. Similar, where it's, 70 to 120 guys in a field. I think it's 22% from each stage advance. So I'll do that. First stage is in Ocala, which is close to my home here in Orlando, so I don't have to travel far. I'll do first stage there like the middle of October. Second stage for that is like the second week of November. And then final stage for that is like the second week of December. And final stage is actually they're offering 5 PGA Tour cards now with the new way they're doing Q School. So it used to be PGA Tour Q School like a long time ago, where it was like you qualify through Q School, you get a PGA Tour card. They then changed it to Corn Ferry. So then you would go to Q School, get on the Corn Ferry Tour, work your way up through the Corn Ferry. They've now gone back to where it's final stages, the top 5 finishers get PGA Tour cards, the rest get Corn Ferry Tour cards. And where you finish at Q School, this is kind of important actually that I didn't mention earlier. Where you finish at Q School dictates what status you have for the following year. So like the first place finisher will have the best status out of any qualifier at Q School. second place will have second best. Like if you finish 45th, you'll have the 45th best status coming out of Q school. So that's also something to remember. Like making it to final stage doesn't mean you just get a card. So that's the plan for Corn Ferry. And then I'm doing Asian tour as well. That was recommended to me by a couple of guys that I played with in Canada and Latin America that had played out there. They played it a couple of years ago, and this was before Liv had kind of invested in golf. And with their investment into Liv, they had the big, thing where their players weren't getting world ranking points because they weren't able to get into events. The Asian Tour allowed the Liv players to play their events, and now the DP World Tour is as well, and you're seeing some of that. But Asian Tour has like 6 to 8 events that they call the International Series, and the purses are basically like PGA Tour purses. So the money is really solid over in Asia. Um, Less important than the money is the world ranking points, I think, for a golfer. Like you have to have world ranking points to get into these tournaments. So the Asian tour with these guys playing on live and like trying to be competitive and get some guys like myself onto live or whatever that looks like, the competition in Asia has actually gotten really solid. And the world ranking points are pretty good as well. So there's only 2 stages of Asian Tour Q School, which is another huge perk. I'm doing first stage in LA, like the first week of November, and then the second stage is in Thailand, which I've never been to Thailand. Would love to go, and I'm probably like even saying that wrong, but yeah, would love
Thailand,
to
no, that's
go.
right.
And yeah, right. I like
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was like another way to pronounce it, but
No.
I'm excited. I think, 3 opportunities, which, not every, young professional has, the opportunity to do all 3 Q schools. So I'm in a very advantageous spot. And, I didn't take advantage of the advantageous spot that I was put in last year with PGA Tour U. So I'm excited to, get out there and, try and prove myself, against all my peers that are doing the same thing.
And you were talking a little bit before when we were talking about the Q schools and all of that, and you talked about the differences between an American Q school and a DP World Tour Q school. Do you want to kind of quickly talk about like the differences in the courses and maybe even like scoring and kind of maybe your experience with some of those that you've had in the past?
Yeah, for sure. So like DP World Tour it's my favorite type of golf where I'm not the longest hitter off the tee, and with the way the game is going nowadays, I'm not team like roll back the ball. I think if you have the opportunity to hit it really far, you should, but I don't. So I don't love that type of golf. And when I go to Europe, everything is tree lined, a lot of dog legs where you have to hit it to here to be able to hit it to there. And I really like that. The course I played in Austria last year for first stage, I think it was 6,600 yards, and I shot 5 under and advanced. Like a 6,600 yard course here in America, if you don't shoot 5 under a day, you're getting lapped. And so I think for me, like we had a coach at Alabama when I was there my freshman and sophomore year, and he just said, keep it between the mayonnaise and the mustard. And that stuck with me for a long time. And like that's kind of how I feel about European golf is like if you can keep it between, the right side of the trees and the left side of the trees, you have a chance. And I always felt like I was pretty good at doing that. And with it being shorter over there, like you don't have to hit driver as well, which I'm not scared to hit driver. I like hitting driver, but I think it creates that sense of doubt where like one guy might hit a 4 iron, I might hit a driver, and the other guy might hit a 3 wood. And so it's all these different types of golf playing at the same place, and the lowest score wins. And I think it's like everyone is kind of put on a fair playing field in a way where it does take driver out of the longer guy's hands, but it keeps driver in my hand, and then we hit it into the same spot in the fairway. So that's the big difference. I mean, Corn Ferry it's very American, and there's nothing wrong with American. It's just it's long, and a lot of the ways that these people have fixed golf courses in this age of golf is they move a bunker and they'll move it to like 280 to the front, 295 to the back. And so for me, that bunker is squarely in play. Like I have to hit it around that bunker. For a guy who hits at 310, they don't even blink about that bunker. And that's kind of the frustrating part that I've found playing, these, Corn Ferry Tour qualifiers or Q School, whatever it is in America. And I've never done Asian Tour Q School, so I don't know, what the golf is over there. But and I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. I just have a preference when it comes down to it. And my preference is Europe, short and tight.
So when you're going through these tournaments and like the American versus the European style golf, you talk about like having to go 5 under to qualify, in American style. Would you consider yourself more a I'm gonna shoot 1 to 2 under every time, or are you a golfer that could be like, I might shoot even par, but I also might shoot 8 under? Like not to bring Nick Dunlap into this, but like Nick can just go nuclear and just go as low
Yeah.
as possible. But like there's also rounds where maybe not as good. Are you more consistent, or are you more, I can go low, but then I'm also not gonna go, or I might go high as
Yeah,
well.
no, I think that's a great question. Like I do really think that's a great question because that's kind of exactly how I would describe professional golf. Like my problem has been shooting 1 or 2 under every time. And if you go look at my player profile on the PGA Tour app, like my scoring average is like 69 and a half. But out there, like the cuts were 7 under each week. So like I would go shoot 69, 69 and miss a cut. And then you're kind of left in that place where you're like, did I play bad or did I not play good enough? If that makes sense.
Mm.
And that was a really frustrating like place for me to be in. I think to answer your question, I'm definitely more of the like consistent 1 under, 2 under, 3 under guy. I mean, I definitely have it in me to go shoot 8 under any given day. But you talked about Dunlap and like he didn't play any of the events in the fall, his sophomore year when he was on that run. And we weren't mad at him. He was winning everything and like playing in PGA Tour events, but he did play the Maidstone Collegiate, which was our last event of the fall. And he shot like 71 in the first round. I shot 68. I was like, bro, this guy's like, he's good, but like, come on. Like, and then second round comes around. We played 36 holes. I get up to 18 green. I'm in the group in front of them, and I'm like, "How are the boys doing?" I didn't check my phone or anything, and we were in first by like 10 shots. I'm like, "Where did that come from?" Dunlap was like 11 under through 14 or something. He ended up shooting 60 at Maidstone and lipped out on the last hole for 59. And like, I shot 2 under in the afternoon and thought I kind of striped it around the place. And I was just like, oh, that's a different gear. And I think once I got to like turning pro and playing with these guys, like this might be a name that like people don't recognize, but Johnny Kiefer, like people should know his name moving forward. He played with us out on America's last season, won like everything. He's won on the Corn Ferry Tour already now. And it was like I played with him in college a lot, and I thought we were pretty similar games. Like he would beat me sometimes, I would beat him sometimes, and he probably beat me a little more than I beat him. But now he's an absolute world beater, and it's like I think some of these guys just have another gear that they're able to turn it up to, and I think I have that gear. I just haven't found out how to tap into it yet at the right time. But yeah, I mean, for sure, like there are guys out there that'll be like, I don't care if I shoot 6 over today. I'm trying to shoot 8 under.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to that mindset that those guys have that breeds successful professional golfers.
Do you think that like in time, you're only a year and a half outside of, school, in time as you go through your professional career, does it become more difficult to like, because like you're trying to make a living, right? Like this
Mhm.
isn't this isn't like, oh, I'm going to golf with my boys. Like you're going out there, you're trying to get a paycheck, you're trying to get money. As the time goes on, and obviously you're only a year and a half in, is it more stressful, or do you become more relaxed because you've already been through it before?
I mean, yeah, it gets more stressful. Yeah, I said we were an open book, right? It gets way more
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm
I'm broke, like I have no money, I'm flying all over the place, like renting cars all the time, staying in hotels. Like it's not a cheap living to be making, especially when you start missing cuts. And then you're in Ottawa, Canada, in a like hotel, Holiday Inn, and you're like, I didn't make any money this week. Like I actually lost 2 grand. Like that, it's a horrible feeling. And so yeah, it does get a lot more stressful. But I also think like it creates a sense of urgency sometimes that like and not in a bad way, where it's like not that I've had this thought, but I've had other guys that I've played with like tell me they were like, yeah, I had 3 events left and if I didn't do anything, I was hanging it up. And then they would like win second place, third place. And so it's like maybe a little bit to your point, they were like, well, at this point, I'll just get a job. And then they start playing really good. So I think there is a little bit of both. Like right now, I'm not deep enough in my career to be like, oh, I'm going to get a job or anything like that. So I think the stress is a little lower than, someone who's 26, 27, 28 doing it still. But yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said the stress isn't there. And like you feel it from other people in your life, like my mom and dad and like girlfriend don't ever bring it up, but it's like, they're like watching and like you miss a cut. It's like, yeah, they know you miss a cut. And it's not like they do anything wrong, but it's like as I think as a golfer, especially like a professional, your whole entire livelihood is based on your score. And not how you are as a person is judged based on your score, but what you bring home at the end of the day is based on a score. So like there's a lot of pride that comes with the score that you shoot and the results that you have. And I think like that is a dangerous and slippery slope that like a lot of players go down. And I've gone down it myself, and we'll probably talk about that on a different episode at some point. But yeah, it's stressful. It's honestly kind of scary sometimes. And then too, like you have a lot of people that you went to college with that, played golf and got a job and now they're buying a house and buying a car and getting married. And it's like, I want to do those things too, but the profession I'm in, I have to give it time. And one other thing I'll say is like, I graduated high school early. I graduated college early. Like, I did PGA Tour University twice because I graduated school early and went back to school. So like everything I've done in my life, I've done fast. And so I think in my mind, the stress level is a little higher because I'm like, well, a year and a half, nothing happened. Like it's not meant to be. But I've had a lot of people that have helped me in my like young career so far that have been like, hey man, just take a deep breath. Like it either happens or it doesn't, but like you can't put a timeline on it. And some people like have to put a timeline on it. But for me right now, there is, no timeline, which makes the stress a little lower. But all in all, to answer your question, yeah, it's a stressful business.
Well, and the reason why I asked that is because you hear stories of like guys where, they're one putt away from a PGA Tour card or even maybe even Corn Ferry status or whatever it is. And some guy makes the putt and some guy misses the putt. I think Scotty Scheffler talked about it one time in a Corn Ferry event where he was like, if I didn't make X putt, then I wasn't getting my PGA Tour card and maybe I'm not Scotty Scheffler, right?
Yeah.
And I think for people listening, realizing that, you know, while you guys are all professional golfers, sometimes it's a one putt that decides whether or not someone's a PGA Tour golfer or not a golfer.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's just important for people to kind of get that inside perspective as you're going through it. And, as we go through this podcast of like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And, you did say you're an open book. So I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
you layup questions
No, and like,
to,
well, so to your point, what you just brought up, like we were talking about Q school earlier, and like at Corn Ferry Finals, the top five get a PGA Tour card, and the rest get Corn Ferry cards. But there's a playoff, so like if there's a tie for fifth and there's two guys, one guy is going to the PGA Tour and making at minimum $500,000 next year, and the other guy is going to the Corn Ferry Tour, and like he's gonna have to play his way back to the PGA Tour. And so like I can't even, I mean, I've played, high level events, but I can't imagine the stress of being like, I have to win this playoff to like beat this other guy whose dream is also to be on the PGA Tour. And like that, it's got to be so horrible, but it's the business that we chose, and that's why we do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy business.
So, and we can talk about some of the other things that we brought up, throughout this on other different podcasts. But um, as far as you and your next step, you're going to Sweden and then you're going to LA. In between that downtime, is there stuff you're working on? Are you meeting with the coach? Are you, just kind of relaxing, trying to decompress? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, between Q schools, it's pretty busy, and this time of year, I've actually had a lot of time over the summer to kind of work on some stuff that I've wanted to work on. So I think, this now that we're getting into Q school and I'm going to Sweden, I think when I come back, it's going to be a lot of like mini tour events, like stuff like that, where you're playing. Like maybe some Monday qualifiers for the fall events just to stay sharp. But I'm a big proponent in like playing golf. I think the only way to stay sharp and to be your best is to play. I've never been a range rat. And this summer, like I really have been a range rat. So it's been a lot different. I had to rebuild a lot of my golf swing and do a lot of different things. Um, and I think part of that was like I got thrown into America's tour, Canada and Latin, and like I had to play every week for 8 months. And so like I started forming these bad habits and it's like you just got to figure out a way to play. And I've had some time now to figure it out. But I think to answer your question, like this week, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm playing a 2-day mini tour event. The winner gets like $1,000, but it's not the money per se. It's like I need to like putt everything out. I need to like if I hit it in a hazard, take the correct drop, like all of these things to like get you ready to compete. And then like once you get to Q school, it all goes by in a blur. Like last year when I went to Vienna for first stage, I flew to Vienna, which is like 9 hours there, 9 hours back, made it through. Then 2 weeks later, flew to Spain, which was 8 hours there, 8 hours back. Didn't get through there, and then played Corn Ferry Tour Q school like 2 weeks later. So it's like I think if you get back home from Q school and you kind of like take a deep breath, the time gets away from you really fast. Like there there is no time to like quote unquote like recover. It's like for the next 3 months, I'm putting the pedal as hard to the gas, like the floor as I can. And then after those 3 months, I can take a deep breath, and either I have status and I can get ready for that, or I don't have status and I can figure out, like what's the next step, what's the plan. So this is my big time busy season, and like I think I'm coming to alumni weekend at Alabama the week right before Thanksgiving for a football game. And the golf team alumni are getting together, but like other than that, I don't have anything other than golf for the next 3 months.
No football either, from what you said.
Dude, it's so hard. I've tried to so Stream East got shut down like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I was like Stream East's biggest fan because I traveled like all over, Canada and Latin America, and like I said, Austria, and a lot of it's during football season, and those countries don't care about American football, which was a shock to me. Um, Greatest sport in the world. So it's like now I got to figure out how to either, I'm not going to say illegally stream, but to how to stream those football games in the country that I'm going to be in. Um, and like, yeah, like how do you watch college football in the Philippines? Like, do you like, I don't know. So I'm going to figure out the whole VPN situation. Um, we'll get that dialed in and then, yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's different. Like when I was in Vienna last year, Bama was playing like South Carolina, I think, and it was like 1 in the morning. I had like a 8 a.m. tea time the next day, and I'm sitting there watching Alabama, South Carolina. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? And honestly,
But you
I
made it
qualified
through.
through. Yeah, I made
Yeah,
it
I
through. So
mean,
like, I'm gonna have to stream the Bama game this weekend. But yeah,
um,
it's fun.
so last question about your stuff, and then we'll maybe go into the world of golf a little bit. When you're on the course, yeah, again, this is an open book question, so
Hmm.
and any of these questions you don't have to answer, but I am curious about it.
No, I will.
You talk there's interviews and people talk about like being in a zone versus like letting nerves get to them. Are you a golfer that like in a crowd when there's people around you, are you a golfer that zones in and like I don't want to go back to like, have you ever watched like the greatest? I think it's called like the Greatest Game with Shia LaBeouf, where he's
Yeah,
like,
with Francis we met and like
yeah,
all that.
yeah,
Yeah,
where
yeah. It's
like
like great movie.
you see where like there's zoom, like he's like zooms in and like
Yeah.
he's like tunes out everything. Are you a golfer like that, or are you more of a golfer where like things get in your head and like you're thinking about maybe hypothetically, and I'm not trying to put anything in your head, so please don't take this onto the golf course, but like
hmm
you're thinking about a putt and you're like, if I make this putt, this happens.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And also, I said two different movies. Francis We Met movie is a different movie. I think the one you're talking about is The Legend of Bagger Vance.
Yeah,
Fantastic movie for
yeah,
anybody that hasn't watched it.
yeah,
Amazing movie.
yeah.
But I think to answer your question, I think I play better when there's people around, which
Mhm.
actually has been an issue because like in Canada and Latin America, there's no one there. Like there was more people at college events than are at Canada and Latin events. And I think like when there wasn't people there in college, I had, that on my shirt, which is the swinging elephant or the hat, and I knew that like there was four other people relying on me to do my best. Um, and like, yeah, I mean, situations always affect golfers. I don't care what somebody tells you. Like, there's no way you're looking at a golf shot and not thinking about the consequences of the golf shot. Now, they might not be bad for certain players. Like certain players might be like, well, I'm gonna hit it to a foot, and they believe it and they do it. And like I do that sometimes too. But I think to your point about the zone, like I've been in the zone, and I think you'll hear this from other golfers where like they get in the zone and the ball just goes where they want it to go, like every time. But I could not tell you how I got into the zone. Like it was just a naturally occurring thing. And like my two college events that I won at Duke and the Water Sound Invitational. I won Duke by like seven or eight, and I won the Water Sound by 7 or 8. So like both times I was in the zone, I was dominant against the competition, but I don't know how I got there. And I think that's I think that's the answer for a lot of people is like, yes, it exists. Yes, it's there. If I told you how to get there, I would be worth
I was
$1 billion,
gonna
but
say
I
you
can't.
could, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. And like I think that's a very common thing. But I think too, a lot of it is like when you're hitting the ball good, it's a lot easier to get into the zone because you're seeing the ball come out in windows that you want it to come out of, like trajectory wise, and it's the shape you want it to be, and it's starting at the right place and it's ending at the right place. And so I think the zone is really just an uber confidence that someone like has in themselves over a week. And then it culminates to that last, meaningful shot that people remember and you claim you're in the zone. But I think for most people, it's just like confidence from the shots you've hit previously. Maybe that's even like weeks before or tournaments before. But yeah, I think the zone is definitely a real thing. I couldn't tell you how to get there, and I think it's really just confidence.
So I'm this is the la this is I'm not berating you anymore with any questions about your stuff. Let's talk about some of the stuff in the world of golf that's going on. Let's start with the Walker Cup. I think that
Mhm.
finished this past weekend. What did you get a chance to watch? What did you think about just the general Walker Cup and all of that?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch much of it. I actually followed most of it on socials, and that was a fun way to follow it if you follow the USGA on like Instagram or Twitter. I was really more so trying to watch the golf course because it was at Cypress Point, which is, I think they call it like 7 Mile Drive or whatever, where it's like Pebble Beach, Spyglass, Cypress Point, and there might be another one or two tucked in there that people will probably get mad at me for forgetting. But yeah, the Walker Cup is it's starting to be biannual, I think, starting next year. So it's going to go to 2026 and then 2028. But it's Great Britain and Ireland's best amateurs against the United States best amateurs. It's basically just an amateur Ryder Cup. Um, I think the big takeaways from me this week were Jackson Coyven is still really amazing at golf, which as much as it pains me to say as an Alabama fan, he is amazing at golf. And actually, I played against him my senior year in the SEC championship. We played Auburn in match play, and I had him down three with four to play, and he won the last four holes. I don't know if I've gotten over that still.
I definitely wasn't intently paying attention on my phone during that time or
Yeah,
anything.
that was horrible, man. That was so bad, and oh, I lost so much sleep over it. But he's a really nice guy. I've talked to him, a good amount, which most guys are. He's an incredible talent. I think he's already locked up his PGA Tour card, and he's like a sophomore in college. So that's incredible. He played good. I think he got 2 points for Team USA. The other one that I was watching was the mid-am Stuart Hagestad, which mid-ams are anybody over the age of 25 that's an amateur. So it kind of weeds out the college guys. And they have their own like United States mid-am champion. They get in the Masters. So if you see, the Masters next year and someone says, "Oh, that's the mid-am," that's who they are. He played well. He had the clinching point, I think, on the 15th hole in singles the last day. I've played a lot of golf with him. He's like 6'7". He's the tallest human being I've ever seen, and he's got a great action. He broomsticks with the putter, which being 6'7", like that's the only one where I'm like broomsticking makes sense. Um, yeah, but it was just a fun week, and like I hope that the Walker Cup continues to grow because I as much as I didn't watch last week, and it's in a tough part of the schedule with college football being on, but it's such an incredible event, and like I think it's so cool. And one of the captains, I forget which one, they were saying like, people came out and watched this week, and it's great to watch the Walker Cup at Cypress Point, but you're gonna look back in 4 or 6 years and be like, when that kid wins the Masters, I can be able to be like, I was within arm's length of him in the fairway at Cypress Point watching that kid play golf. And then like next year it goes to Lahinch, which is in I think Ireland. That's going to be an awesome place. The year before it was at St. Andrews. So like they have amazing venues. They've got great teams. The Americans routed GB and I think it was like 19-7 or something. So good to see the boys in the red, white, and blue put on a good show. And yeah, happy for all those guys. And go USA.
So then they also they have some PGA Tour America events. I think some of the Alabama guys are on that. And then you said the Corn Ferry playoffs are this weekend. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Americas event this week, which is Canada, they're in like Edmonton, I believe. It's the ATB Classic. I would have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the name. I actually played that event last year. Um, and this was not normal out there, but the clubhouse had been struck by lightning and caught on fire the week before, so there was no clubhouse. It was burned to the ground. We used like U-Haul trailers like for the week for like food and like recovery and PT stuff, which like it wasn't bad. I just thought that was crazy. But then the 10th hole was a par five, like probably best hole on the course, like 590, water up the left, really good par five. They had lost the green over the winter to winter kill. So we played 17 holes that event, and they just gave us a par on hole 10 on the scorecard. I've never had that happen in a tournament before. Like that was an
That's
insane thing.
crazy.
So yeah, so the winner only played what 68 holes or yeah, 68 holes instead of 72 holes. Um, so that I think they have the 10th hole back open this year. It'll be a 72 hole tournament, but that was one tournament that I'll never forget. And Edmonton was awesome. Like we were there during game 7 of the Stanley Cup last year, so the city was, really cool. Just unlucky with the clubhouse in the 18th or the 10th green. Um, the Corn Ferry is in Franklin, Tennessee this week. They're at Vanderbilt's Legends course. Which Vandy practices out of, and I think maybe even part owns. Davis Shore is playing this week, which I played with Davis at Alabama. He's from Tennessee originally. He played pretty decent at this event last year. I think he finished at 12 under last year. Um, we've played there as a team at least twice when I was there. I think Davis might have played it 2 or 3 times. and I think he's going to have a good week. It's the start of the playoffs. Big week. He's in like 38th on the points list, so he's in a good position to make a run for a PGA Tour card. They have 4 weeks of the playoffs, I believe. This is the starting, obviously, and yeah, I mean, I think with his reps there at Alabama, it's long. He's a good driver of the golf ball. He's a great putter of the ball. They have really nice greens at Vanderbilt's Legends course. And I think he's going to have a really solid week. I'm excited to watch him. And I'm excited to watch him honestly throughout the whole playoffs. And also the Corn Ferry events on TV this weekend, which usually the Corn Ferry events aren't televised. I think it's a cool experience to watch like guys. It truly, I think it means so much more for those guys than like guys on the PGA Tour. Not that like winning isn't important, and I'm sure like winning on the PGA Tour is the best feeling in the world, but like winning a Corn Ferry Tour playoff event and basically guaranteeing a spot on the PGA Tour next year is like it's truly like a life-changing moment for these guys, and like watching it on TV, being able to see it live and like I mean, instantly watch this guy's life change is a lot of fun. So I would encourage anybody between football games to try and turn that on this weekend.
But it's also because it's a lifelong dream
Hmm.
for anyone that's a professional golfer to get in the PGA Tour. So like I can't imagine just like the amount of emotions that go through like someone's mind when you're like, I made this putt, I'm in the PGA Tour, and you
Yeah.
know,
Well, and it's such a long season too, right? Like they've been playing since like January of this year. So you go through this whole season, you play good sometimes, you play bad sometimes. You're in like Boise, Idaho, then you're going to Wichita, Kansas, and then like, Franklin, Tennessee, and then you end up on the PGA Tour, and now you're like in Cabo, and then you're in like Bay Hill, and then you're at PGA National. And it's like not that the Corn Ferry is bad, but it's like a step up in life. And those guys know it. And it's such a rewarding experience. And like it's got to be so amazing for them. And I'm hoping to one day experience that. But I've seen some of my friends do it and I've seen their reactions and I've heard them talk about it. And like Wilson, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, he made a par on the 18th hole in the final playoff event to, I think, keep his card or maybe get status on PGA Tour. I can't remember. And it was like, as a viewer, I was sitting there shaking, like in my chair, because I'm like, he has to make a four here. And so, like, the pressure is so high. It's fun to kind of find a guy and latch onto him and ride him for the playoffs. And if he does it, like, and he gets his card, it's like now I get to watch him on the PGA Tour and be like, hey, I watched this guy before he was, X, Y, and Z.
yeah, absolutely. And then they have the fall, you said, is it called the Fall Series or Fall Classic for the
Yeah,
PGA
it's
Tour?
the fall series of the PGA Tour. It's kind of confusing how they do it. So like it's the wraparound schedule now is what they, brand it as. I think the true new season starts, this could be totally wrong, but I believe the new season starts when they go to Hawaii
It does, yeah.
for the Tournament of Champions. So all of these guys playing, except for the guys playing this week that are on the Ryder Cup team that are preparing for the Ryder Cup, it's a lot of guys at the back end of the points list from last year that are trying to play and, like I said earlier, like get out of that reshuffle, get out of the conditional status, get back into full status so they can it's really so you can just plan your year instead of playing it by the seat of your pants. Like if you have full status, you know which events you're getting into, at least to start the year, so you can make travel arrangements. You can, figure out what events are where, when you're going to be gone, that whole thing. So and then like for those guys playing in the fall series events, like if they don't if they don't play well and get status back, they're now sent back to the Corn Ferry Tour, which is the inverse of what we just talked about. You just reach that PGA Tour level. You've been living pretty lavishly for the last 12 months, and now you're going back to Wichita, Kansas, or Boise, Idaho. And not that those are bad places, but they're not the PGA Tour, and I think, that's probably as equally difficult to swallow going backwards as it is, joyous and momentous to receive your status and move up.
So, how put yourself in the shoes of the golfers that are trying to maintain status or get status. How do you feel if you see Scotty Scheffler is your partner in a tournament that you need to do well in
Oh, I'd
to,
probably be so pissed.
yeah,
I'd be so mad. Like, not that Scotty like shouldn't play. Like
yeah,
he's a member of the PGA Tour and like he's getting ready for the Ryder Cup. But it's like, I mean, Patton Kizzire, I think, won this event last year. And Patton Kizzire is nothing like I'm not saying anything bad about Patton Kizzire, but like that's kind of like an opportunity for a guy who has been back and forth or, hasn't had as many wins as like a Justin Thomas or like a Rory or someone, obviously. It's an opportunity for them to win an event and get a 2-year exemption. So like Patton
yeah,
winning last year, he now gets to plan his next 2 years on the PGA Tour, which that's a huge, huge thing for them to be able to do. And Patton made the most of it. Like I think he played pretty decent throughout the season, and I'm sure he's playing there again next year. But I think it's Scotty is probably going to win because he wins every time he tees it up. Um, but I mean those points are so high at the top, right? Like it's all front loaded. So any guy in that back half that finishes in the top 10, like that's a huge week for them. And then there's also going to be an event like right before the Ryder Cup, right after the Ryder Cup that, those 12 Ryder Cup guys, well, really 24 Ryder Cup guys aren't going to be playing. And I think the fall is honestly a really good opportunity for those guys on the PGA Tour. And then I think too, like some of the guys that are on the Corn Ferry Tour that have locked up their card, right? So like with the season points list, some guys have already earned enough to know they have a card for next year. You might see them slide into the PGA Tour events as well, like the Sanderson or the one in Utah, which Sanderson Farms is the PGA event in Jackson, and then they're having a Utah event this year. Um, but it's like it gives those guys an opportunity to get a head start on a season that, is really a season that they weren't even a part of going into the new season, if that makes sense.
yeah. So last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll end it. Don't want to go too long. Is the Ryder Cup? I don't know if we're going to be able to film, anything next week. Obviously, you're going to be in Europe. So let's get your thoughts on the Ryder Cup and just we're American here. What do you think about America's chances to win the thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think America is going to win. I'll put it like that. I think GB and I haven't looked at the betting for the Ryder Cup, but I would imagine GB and I is probably favored with the lineup that they have. Um, the back half of our lineup is a lot different than other Ryder Cups that we've seen in the recent years. Sam Burns was, I think, a good addition by Keegan at the back half. Get someone in there that's had a little bit of experience. I mean, our first six players are gonna be dominant. I think it's gonna be fun to watch JJ Spawn play in the Ryder Cup, which I don't know if I had ever thought about saying that before now. No, no shade at anybody, but he's had such an incredible year and he's played good in all of the big events. I think it's going to be fun to watch him play in a team event for the United States at the Ryder Cup. I think I think America is going to get it done simply because it's in America. It's at Bethpage. I think the New York fans are going to carry them over the edge. Um, but I think it's going to be a good fight from Team Europe. I think, they're very deep roster wise. They're going to be, not they're going to be fresh because they're playing the DP World Tour event this week in England. Same as our guys are doing in California. Um, the golf course is going to be really great. It's going to be long, long rough, fast greens. They actually might shave the rough a little bit for the Americans, but who knows? Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think that's the sporting event that like I wish I could go to. If I'm being honest, like the one sporting event I wish I could go to is a Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black
That'd be
with
sick.
Long Island fans. and like at a municipal golf course, Team USA, Team Europe, like I'm super jealous of all the people going, and I can't wish Team USA enough luck. And I hope they win, and I think they're going to.
I got to go to the President's Cup here in Charlotte 2 years ago. I mean, I think the Americans had it won by by Saturday's end, and so
Yeah,
I went on Sunday and I was like, there's no crowd, there's no like enthusiasm. Everyone's just
yeah.
kind of like just chilling. But I couldn't
I will
imagine the
say
Ryder Cup.
I played a junior President's Cup in Australia in Melbourne when it was at Royal Melbourne. And we were there like the 2 days before the actual President's Cup, and then we stayed to watch the President's Cup. And that was a very fun experience because I've heard a lot of people say the same thing about the President's Cup that you just said. I think it was because it was in Australia and they love golf so much over there. Like it was sold out every day, and Tiger was playing, so that helped. But like I think it really does depend on like where you are. And that's why I'm saying this year I think it's honestly I think it's going to be nasty, and I hope it doesn't get out of hand. I hope it gets a little bit out of hand. Like I hope someone says something like pretty bad, but not like terrible. Um, but yeah, I mean it's gonna be electric. Like you get Yankees fans, Mets fans, Knicks fans. I'm not even gonna say Nets fans, but like the New York Giants, Jets, like all those people in one place rooting for the same team for the one time in their lives. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and you'll get guys from people from Philly,
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. You'll get people
Jersey.
from Boston,
Yeah,
because that's only like an hour and a half train ride from for those
yeah.
guys.
No,
So
it's gonna be incredible. Like it's
yeah.
truly, I think it's gonna be incredible, and I wish I was gonna be there.
Well, instead you're gonna go win, DPQ school and go get
Yep.
status on not on even on the challengers. You're gonna get DP status is what I've been told per sources. But um, Canon, anything else you want to leave anyone with?
No, I think I just want to say like I think we're gonna try and do this like maybe once a week heading forward. We're obviously probably not gonna record next week because we're gonna have like an 8 hour time gap. Unless I figure out a way to do it. But I don't think we're missing much on the golf schedule next week. So um, I'm very excited for the Ryder Cup. It's going to be awesome. I hope everybody enjoys it. I'm very excited to be doing a podcast with you, and I'm very excited about the prospect of trying to turn golf adjacent into something that is to be proud of. And like I said, like before, it's an open book. Like people can reach out to me. I'm not like hard to find on social media. It's just Canon Claycomb. DM me, comment on a picture or something, like just whatever you want to hear, let me know. That way we can talk about it. And yeah, that's kind of it.
And for everyone listening, we're working on getting socials up, both for Instagram, Twitter, for this. We'll have those up by the end of the week. If you have any questions for Canon, like he said, you can DM him or you can DM me or the Crimson Crossover page or Golf Adjacent page whenever it comes out. Um, like Canon said, our schedule is, I mean, we might record next week, we might not. It truly just depends on, time differences and things of that nature, but we'll try to be pretty consistent with this. Um, we'll get into, just some future ideas, maybe talking about college golf, his experience, talking about, maybe his experience as we're going through, Q school and the PGA Tour Americas this past summer. Um, and we'll kind of go by the flow of what everyone wants. I think that's the best way to do it. We'll have some interviews here and there, maybe from some former Alabama golfers and some people on some tours that you've met. Um, just really excited to bring the golf content back to Crimson Crossover. Excited to have Cannon here to, kind of help lead that charge going forward, and excited to get this going.
Yep, that's perfect. I'll see you guys next week.
Yep. See ya.